Pozdravljeni, drage gledalke, dragi gledalci. Tole je oddaja Dobro je vedeti. Nocoj gostimo direktorja podjetja Lafarge Cement Trbovlje, ki je to funkcijo prevzel februarja v letošnjem letu. Vabim vas k ogledu nocojšnjega pogovora, saj bomo spregovorili tudi o situaciji, ki je trenutno v podjetju in o prihodnosti podjetja v Trbovljah. So, Mr. Haimo Primas, hello.
Dobar dan.
I welcome you to the studio.
Thank you.
I'm very glad you came. So, firstly, can you tell us something about yourself? What is your work experience and what was your previous work in Lafarge?
Yes. So, I'm Austrian by nation, so not far away from the Slovene border, only 6 kilometers. So, one of the next villages is Untitled on the Slovene side. And I also have ancestors from Slovenia. So, from my mother's side, grandparents are from the region of Maribor. But the language got lost in the family over the last decade, so unfortunately I'm not good in Slovene. I can express a little bit understanding that's working. I'm with Lafarge now for more than 10 years. I started as a financial manager in a cement plant in Austria. By education, I'm economics. I studied economy in Graz. And in Slovenia, I started end of 2010 as financial director in cementarne Trbovlje. And after some changes in management, the former GM left end of January this year. So I took over the position of managing director per 1st of February.
And what are your priorities in the position of general manager of cementarne Trbovlje?
Our first priority is safety, health and safety. It is most important that our people work safely. We want our people to come home each day health and sound. The second priority is environment and its stakeholder. It's very important to make sure that the environment where we are operating and working in is okay with us as well. Of course, we also make business. Our business is to sell cement, to produce cement, to sell cement. At the end of the day, also to sell a solution that's concrete, but we are the cement supplier. And what we want to offer is a perfect solution for our customer. So that's the next priority. And last but not least, to make sure that the cement factory has long-term a good position in Zazaue.
So you mentioned the safety of employees. I think you're doing very good with this.
Yes, we celebrated this year 1,000 days without an incident, without injury. 1,000 days might sound not much or much, it depends on. It means 3 years that people were very concentrating on safe behavior. 1,000 days means also 3 years taking care about each other. It's not only that the personal behavior of every individual person, it's also a team effort and a team achievement, and we're very proud of it.
What do you think are the most critical skills a manager needs to succeed in today's strained business conditions?
I think flexibility. I mean, in days like this, I'm here in Slovenia since end 2010, when the big crisis in construction business started with bankruptcies of Primorje, SCD, Vegrad, and so on. You need to be flexible to be able to adjust to the day-to-day happenings. Today you need a crisis manager, tomorrow you need somebody who's just observing. Then you need somebody to motivate, to coach. I would say a good manager is capable of adjusting his management style and his way to work on the needs of the situation.
So you are flexible?
I try to be flexible. Yeah? Of course, I have a style which I like. I like to work in a team. I like to observe. I like to consult. I like to talk to people. But in times like this, when it's quite bumpy and quite difficult on the market, you also need to be sometimes strong. You need to give the strategy. You need to lead the team, which I also like to do. So it's the day-to-day changing challenge, which I like.
And you also adjust with local environment with the language. You learn a little bit.
Ja, samo govorim malo slovensko, but it's easier for me to speak, to understand. Sometimes I ask my team po slovensko, so just discuss in Slovene. I'm able to follow. I'm able to tell where I'm going. I can say what I want to drink, to eat. I can read the menu in the restaurant. It's a little bit. It is very difficult to be perfect in a foreign language when you talk about business topics. It's very difficult. And also, if the main language of the day-to-day operation is English, as we are an international company, there is less opportunity to talk in Slovene. If you are forced to talk Slovene, then of course you would have to learn more. So also a little bit of laziness, not having the need to learn.
Yeah, but people do respect if you at least try to speak a little bit.
It's sometimes a smile on the faces, so they hear he is not from here, but at least he tries. I try to learn day by day, week by week, a little bit more. It will grow. I will never be a perfect Slovene, no, for sure not. My mother tongue is German, Steirisch, but it's okay for the purpose I need.
Okay. So if you compare your experience of Austria and Trbovlje, where do you see main reasons for such different attitude of the local community toward the cement plant? And what is the best way to handle that situation?
I'm not sure if there is a big difference in the perception of people if they're in Austria or in Slovenia. What I experienced in my previous jobs and also in Austria is similar to Slovenia. People have questions, people address questions, and people also want to be taken serious. So people have concerns. They don't want to hear what you feel, what you think is not correct, is not okay. It might be that in the past in Slovenia, if we talk especially about our situation, there was not enough priority to listen to the concerns of the people, and by that also not to understand what drives them, means what is important for the people, for the stakeholders, for the neighbors. And perhaps that's a difference to the environment where I was coming from. In Austria, we had similar problems and similar discussions, but the approach to people was differently as well. To approach them, to ask about their opinion, and to take their opinion also for serious.
But you are trying to change that now.
We already started a few years ago with the stakeholder panel, with going out to people, with inviting people. Our industrial path, which we established a few years ago through our plant, to guide people through our plant, to show industrial activity and a nice and easy way to understand. It's not only first, these are steps to be more open to show. We always invite people to come to our plant to discuss. I think it's more easy to discuss in person than to complain, to write a letter, only to post via internet and Facebook. Yes, it's one way, but still relationship and communication face to face makes more sense, and that's what we want to do more. We want to invite people, we want to go out, we want to talk. We feel being part of Sazawi, we are part of the community, not only because we are here since 140 years almost. We are one part here, one part of the picture, and we want to contribute.
And do you see any success already?
Yes, we see.
There's still some resistance, of course, but...
Yes, of course, but I think that's normal. It would be more a dream or even a fairy tale to think everybody likes what we are doing or everybody is okay. So you will always have people which are challenging, which are more demanding, which have more questions. But what I realized since I'm here, so that's since end 2010, is we increased the number of people who are interested in our activity. More and more people are coming to our plant. We have a very good relationship to Občina Trbovlje. We have an excellent relationship to Občina Hrastnik. With Zagorje, we're on the way to develop a relationship. But it's getting better and better. Also, our Earth Day, planting trees in our quarry, each year shows the big acceptance of schools, of children. They are interested in coming and seeing about our activity and supporting us in recultivation of our quarry.
No, a lot of resistance is also because of that. People say that area here is closed, like there are hills around and it's not open area like some other parts in Slovenia. What kind of solution do you see with this?
First, it is a fact that Lafarge invested more than 30 million euro into environmental and process-related solutions in the last 10 years. We are compliant with all European and Slovene legislation about emission. It is true that the emission situation in the region is problematic. And if you follow all the studies and if you look on the studies, there are the big emittents, which is households and traffic. Industry is one part. It for sure would be wrong only to concentrate on industry to solve, as it's only one part of the problem. And it only can be solved with a joint approach. Household alone will not be able to solve. Traffic alone will not be the solution, and also industry. So it has to be a team approach, which we are working on in this working group. And at the end of the day, I think it's important to achieve a better environment of emission.
And also a constructive dialogue with community.
Again, reverting to what I said before, it is most important to take concern for serious. If somebody says, I have a problem, not to say you don't have a problem, but to listen, to ask, what is your problem? So let's start a dialogue, let's start communication and discussion. That's better and more appropriate than to block and to avoid. Closing the eyes and is not solving the problem. You don't see it anymore, perhaps you don't hear it, but it's still there. So that's our approach.
Okay. We know that in last year, Slovenia was the least attractive country in the European Union for the foreign direct investments. Also for Lafarge, the processes for getting environmental permits are taking very long, but the company is still investing in Trbovlje cement plant. So why is Lafarge still interested as an investor?
Lafarge is an industry, heavy industry, very capital-intensive industry. It's an industry where you invest for long term. It's nothing where you invest today and you get a payback tomorrow. Means there's a longer time horizon for investment as well, and therefore you need to have more patience as well to invest and to go through. While Lafarge is still interested in Slovenia, as we see still cement and construction is our core business. We have a very good and modern factory. We are, according to emission, one of the best in class. We have very good skilled team, and that all makes sense to stay and to further invest. We invested this year in a new loading silo for a special type of cement to serve our customer better than in the past, to offer better solutions. You mentioned that Slovenia's ranking about foreign investment is not that good. Yes, I've participated at the last conference in Ljubljana in September, and the overall feedback from colleagues from abroad was the decision processes in Slovenia are very long. It takes much more time to get a feedback, a decision in Slovenia than in other countries, in comparable countries. And that also might be a reason that investors are a little bit hesitating to put money here. You need more time to get right, to get a decision, to get permits than other countries. That for sure might be a reason. And it was one of the main messages also of this conference. Slovenia will have to speed up processes, will have to speed up decisions.
Probably it will be problematic in future if there will not be any foreign investors. Probably, in your opinion, Slovenia will need foreign investors in future.
Slovenia is part of European Union. We have open borders for people, for money, for goods. I mean, it would be a total wrong strategy in a market which is maximum open to start closing. Means to say, I don't want to have capital from outside here. Capital is within seconds from one account to another transferred. So Slovenia will have to think about the strategy, how to make it attractive that investors say, I put rather my money to Slovenia than to someone else.
So bureaucracy is what we are a little talking about now, is a big issue in Slovenia. So your company has also experienced that because, like we said, your procedure for getting environmental permit has been dragging for over 7 years now. Slovenia has already received several warnings from European Union. What kind of experience on this field do you have in other countries in Europe?
I mean, if I say we have no similar experience, it would not be totally correct. There are also countries worldwide where processes are difficult, where proceedings are lasting longer. For Slovenia, it's for sure a special situation because it's really long-lasting and at the moment quite unclear how it will end and when it will end. Fighting for almost now 8 years to get a permit, an IPPC permit, an environmental permit, is a quite unusual situation. In neighboring countries of Slovenia, this process lasts perhaps 1 year, 2 years, depending on the involvement of stakeholders. We perfectly understand the situation in Slovenia, and it is also correct to take care about minority rights, about minority opinion. Again, back to what I mentioned before, somebody has a problem, somebody has concerns, to take it for serious. What we are questioning is if a minority really can block for 8 years a process, if a minority really is able to block development of a region. It is not only about Lafarge, because in Slovenia there are almost 30 cases with pending decisions. And I think it was only 1 or 2 weeks ago when the paper industry in Slovenia also didn't get the permit. So it shows something, I would say something has to change. Huh? Yes, take care about what people are thinking, take care about what people are saying and telling, but at the same time find the right balance between industrial activity and stakeholder.
So the problem is mainly that there is no decision, or it's problem that there is no decision good for your company?
I mean, to be honest, there's always a decision, and the decision is not to take a decision or not to issue a permit. What we are missing and what we would like to have is a more proactive approach also from public side to say, okay, we want to solve, we want to succeed. Where we are at the moment for 8 years, we feel it more as a not step forward approach. It's more static. We are not moving. It also might be a very safe situation. You don't take a decision to make a step forward, therefore you don't make anything wrong. You just keep the status quo. But by that, it's more difficult to develop and to evolve.
So if you move a little bit to construction sector in Slovenia, why do you think the situation of construction sector in Slovenia is so bad? And why did it become so bad, actually?
I mean, to be honest, I'm not a Slovene expert. And for sure, it's not the result of the last 3-4 years. The problem for sure started 10, 15, perhaps even 20 years before. What we have seen from outside is that Slovenia was construction-wise in a peak in 2007, 2008. Also, if we talk about the cement market of 1.5 million tons of cement at that time. At the moment, we are at the cement market of 600,000, 700,000, so more than half of the construction market, according to cement, has gone. For sure, what happened at that time was that a lot of infrastructure was built, a lot of activities started, and then it's a positive circle as well, you know. So you have a lot of industrial activity, which is attractive for more activity. So for sure, it was a kind of bulb which was produced, which didn't work finally. So we heard from customers that they are even not able to sell flats they built in 2010 at the moment. Means capital is still blocked in real estate, and compared with a very low level of equity in companies, if you have a lot of loans, if you have a lot of credits, then you are not sound enough to dive through the crisis. And that for sure also has been one of the reasons that Slovenia was coming into this crisis.
Mm-hmm. So construction sector and cement industry are very connected. So you told already a little bit, but how did this affect cementarne Trbovlje? Where does cementarne Trbovlje has its market?
Mm-hmm. We serve the whole Slovene market. We are active from Koper to Novo Mesto up to Murska Sobota and also to Velenje. So we serve the whole market. We also have some market in Croatia. Zagreb is, I think, even as close as Ljubljana, almost by driving. So these are the markets we serve. How it's connected and what did it mean for us? I mean, what happened were the big ones were dying. If you think about Primorje, big construction companies, SCD, Vegrad, that have not been small private construction companies, really big ones. And so for the last years, for sure, there was a change also in construction market from a few big ones to much more medium-sized companies, which also meant a change of market. You have different and new customers, new companies coming and going. Cement industry, not only Lafarge, but cement industry in Slovenia for sure was hit very hard through the last years. All the bankruptcies, cement industry was in it, loss of receivables, bad debt, write-off of receivables. Not only banks had to do that, also industry.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What is Austria doing so different to avoid such situation?
For sure, in average, equity is different. So the structure of equity in Austria is different. And at the end of the day, I think also, as I mentioned, it's nothing which happened in Slovenia overnight. It's something which evolved over years. It's a system which evolved. It's a behavior which was spread. And the same could happen in Austria as well. Mm-hmm. It didn't happen because people didn't behave like that. It's about payment behavior. If you accept your supplier, your customer as a partner, you don't want to mess up. You want to make sure that there is a win-win situation. I think countries and economies who are very efficient and very good are more in this relationship partnership mode than in how can I optimize only myself.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And what do you think it should happen now that this situation in construction sector would improve?
Again, I think it's about equity. What we hear from our customers, it is very difficult to get financing. It might also be connected again to decision. It's not only about public sector and about authorities, also in private companies to take decisions, not to take too much risk. It's always the question, how much risk do you take? But the financing in Slovenia for sure is a there's a big need to change and to do something. If you have no sound base, it's difficult to survive if it gets difficult.
Mm-hmm. So if we move a little bit to production of Lafarge Cement Trbovlje in this year, how is with this? How long did it produce this year? And currently you are using only conventional fuels, if I'm right. How does this affect your business result?
Yeah. The cement market and construction market went down almost 20% versus last year. So big challenge also for industry and also for cementarne Trbovlje. This year we are operating 6 months. It's half year with our kiln for clinker. The cement plant, the cement production is running the whole year, but the main product we need for cement production, clinker, we produce only for 6 months. It's right that we are allowed to use conventional fuel. It is, on the one hand, for sure, a cost disadvantage. If you are dependent on the fuel markets like coal, petcoke, oil, you're following the trend on the market. If we compare to other countries and industries where companies are able to use alternative fuels, we have a worse situation, yes. It's also more challenging and difficult in Slovenia, as our main competitor is allowed to use alternative fuels, and by that, not that dependent on the market for coal and petcoke.
And how is with the tendency of selling of cement in this year?
Yeah. I would say this year was quite challenging in the first half of the year. As I told you, the market went down by almost 20% versus last year. What we see at the moment is a very stable tendency. There are some small to medium projects in the region, in optionas. We see some activities also from public sector, so railway renovation has started. We have some sewage plants and water treatment systems which are built. So a little bit of activity is coming back, which also is shown in the newest forecast of the Macroeconomic Institute that Slovenia's GDP next year will still drop, but the drop will be less than this year. That means it's a little bit of recovery of industry.
Okay. You are also a president of Slovenian Cement Association. What is your function there?
I'm as president, and not only as president, as the whole team in Cement Association, we try to promote concrete at the end of the day. Yes, we are not a concrete producer, but the final solution is not cement, it is concrete. What we want to show is concrete as an alternative building and construction material, and to point out the benefits of concrete, the use of concrete. There are still a lot of applications in the country which are not using concrete, although it would make sense to use. We had last month in October a conference about concreting roads. Roads are typically built in asphalt. There are some applications where it really makes sense to think about concrete because there are advantages of maintenance and lifetime. That's something which we as Cement Association try to show to public. So it's at the end of the day promoting concrete as a construction material.
Okay. As we said before, cementarne Trbovlje works in this area for near 140 years. It has really long tradition and it is an important company in this area. What's your prediction for the next couple of years? Can you say that Lafarge will continue with its production here in Trbovlje?
I have been very clear in my statements this year when we had the press conference early this year. The scope of business will depend on the development of market. It will depend on the permit, and it will depend on the cost competitiveness. To say forever to do industry on the site, I think it's very difficult to say. How much will be done will be defined in future. It is most important to get an IPPC permit. If you don't get an IPPC permit, you have no right to operate. The second is long-term, mid to long-term, we need an alternative fuel permit to be cost competitive. And the third part, market, it's difficult to influence. Through Slotsam, Cement Association, of course, we try to generate the concrete demand on the concrete market by that cement, where it makes sense as an application. So these three parameters have to work, and they will define the scope of our business.
Okay. The future of Lafarge Cement will also have influence on the future of life and work in Trbovlje. So, and of course also the Savia region. What are your predictions about that?
What we did in the past, we will continue. It's working on environment. I think that is a very clear, it's a very clear and strong message from our side. We have done very much in the past. I mentioned before more than 30 million euro investing into process and environment. We are in an industry, and industrial activity always leaves a footprint. That's fact. What we want to make sure is to lower this impact. Lafarge, as a worldwide company, is operating in different, difficult, and sometimes also a more easy environment. What we as a company have to make sure and want to make sure is that our impact is as low as possible. We are a social partner. As you mentioned, we give work, we are employer, we are supplier, and by that, we take our responsibility not only on the business area, but also in social respect and, of course, environmental.
So looking from a local community perspective, what points do you see for further development?
Coming back to my previous statement, scope of business. The scope of business really will be defined by some external facts. It's at the moment not anymore up to us as cementarne Trbovlje to define the rules. Others are now on the move. We need a decision about the permit. And for sure, this will mainly impact how much business we will do here. What we are interested in is relationship business, is long-term business. We want to make sure that also local industry profits from cementarne Trbovlje. Whenever it's possible, we try to do business with local ones. If it's about construction of our new loading silo, if it's about subcontracting or permanent subcontractor. So we try to build as much as possible business, local possible. And alternative fuel preparation also would be possible locally. I mean, if we compare it to other countries around industry which is using alternative fuel, there is a possibility to create jobs, not by the industry itself, but by communities, by optionals, or by other entrepreneurs, by other companies who are producing material to be used. I see here some room, and I would be glad if Trbovlje, if Hrastnik, also Zagorje would be able to participate on that.
So how do you see the attitude of local community toward Lafarge?
I mean, towards Lafarge, the attitude is in Trbovlje very good. And if I talk to politicians and if we talk about business and employment, everybody wants to have employment. Everybody wants to have jobs. And the best is the job to have in front of your door where you live. The problem for sure is similar to an airport. Everybody knows Brnik. Yes, it's good to go there and to fly to vacation. Nobody wants to have the plane in front of his house. So industrial activity and the area where you live, to get into this balance, it's also a job of politicians. We are on the way to discuss with local politicians. Very good communication with Trbovlje, very good with Hrastnik. With Zagorje, I mentioned, we would like to get into more dialogue as well, and also to understand their fears, their concerns, and to find a way how to get into a balance.
So we mentioned before alternative fuels. The main resistance is actually because of usage of alternative fuels. How is the attitude toward alternative fuels in Austria?
Before I come to Austria, perhaps to say, It is most important for industry to keep all the limits and regulation, and authorities, and by that politicians, define the rules of the game. It's very clear how much we are able to emit, what we have to do to take care about the environment. Lafarge, over the last years since existing, has always kept the limits, has always delivered more than expected. That's most important, I think. Yes, there might be a question what you use, what you put into a system, but the question should be what comes out of a system, what is the final product. To compare it with other countries, for example in Austria, as I told you, there are similar questions, similar concerns. What people understand, I think, is that there is a balance between industrial activity and environment. That's something which we as Lafarge think we also have in Zasauje. Perhaps we have to make it more clear also to public to say we need a balance, there is a balance. If you, stakeholder, think we are unbalanced, let's find a solution to get into balance. And we don't think blocking industry, closing industry is a good way to get into balance. It might be one way, but perhaps it's not the best way.
So where exactly, where is the situation with environmental permit for alternative fuels right now?
Yeah. We are at the moment still in, legally spoken, I think, in the process of appeal. The ARSO decision early this year was not to grant an IPPC permit. So it was kind of a negative decision to our permit. We did an appeal on that, and this appeal is still ongoing. At the moment, we are waiting for a decision of ARSO on our appeal. You mentioned also before that European Union also increased the pressure on Slovenia to finalize processes. So we are quite confident to get a decision within this year. Hopefully it will be a decision in our favor to get an IPPC.
What if won't be?
Very critical question, how to answer. I think we were clear to say that the scope of business will depend on the decision. If we don't get an IPPC permit, we have no permit to run the plant. It would be a very negative signal for industry and also for Zasauje. And Lafarge will take every legal action possible to get right and to get a permit. It's something which we think we deserve, we want to fight for, and at the moment we don't give up. It's not what we want to do. So we still want to make sure that people understand, authorities understand what we need and why we need. And my feeling is we succeeded in telling what is necessary to do, what we need. And I'm very confident that there will be a decision in our favor. It also will ensure industrial activity in future for Zasauje. It's not only about Lafarge, it's about the whole region.
So that will be the permit for all the production of the clinker?
Yes.
Okay. We also mentioned before that Lafarge is social responsible company. You already mentioned that it invested about 30 millions already, of euros, of course, in the plant. How else does it show its social responsibility?
Social responsibility means not only to invest, because investments depends on the companies who do the job. But social responsibility also means to give jobs locally. It means to employ people, of course, with the best skills, but especially Trbovlje and Zagorje and Hrastnik, there are, I think, 40,000 people. So there are enough good skilled people you can employ. Social responsibility also means to pass know-how, to give information. Our industrial path means we invite schools, we invite public to visit our plant, is one part taking responsibility to show industry, to bring industry nearer to the people. Planting trees in the quarry, it's social responsibility, environmental responsibility. To recultivate an industrial area is a benefit not only for the area itself, but also for community. And that overall is what Lafarge is able to contribute. And we have a lot of ideas. We will work on a project for next year. It's called volunteering. We want to be there for community, for the society in which we are living. And I'm looking forward in doing some projects next year.
Okay. So at the end of our interview, would you like to add anything else to our viewers?
We are glad to be part of Zasauer, and we are pretty sure that cementarne Trbovlje in the last 140 years has contributed to better living and also to an improvement of the environmental situation. We would like to continue that, and we are looking forward to do it. You're all kindly invited to drop by, to say hello and to see what industrial activity means, what cement production means. So you're most welcome. Thanks a lot.
So I thank you for this interview to answer our questions.
Najlepša hvala.
Vam, drage gledalke in dragi gledalci, pa se zahvaljujem za vašo pozornost in nasvidenje. Do prihodnjič.